We're going to start going over the practice tests for sections 2.1 through 2.5. Let's start with number 1. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides, giving me 8x plus 12 is equal to 36, minus the 12 from both sides. I get 8x equals 24, so x must be 3. Let's take a look at number 2. The first thing that I want to do is I want to distribute. When I do that, I'm going to get 10x plus 60 equals 9x minus 45. If I subtract 9x from both sides, I get x plus 60 equals negative 45. Subtracting 60 from both sides, I get x equals negative 105. For number 3, we're given that we have the side length of a square is x plus 5, and there are 4 sides to a square, all of them the same length. So I'm going to take my x plus 5 times 4, giving me 4x plus 20. Since they don't tell me what the perimeter is in numbers, we're going to stick with the expression. Number 4. We have the sum of 3 consecutive integers is 429. We know the first integer is x, the second one is x plus 1, the next one is x plus 2. The sum of them means you're going to add them together to get 429, giving me 3x plus 3 equals 429, minus the 3 from both sides. I get 3x equals 426. If I divide by 3, I get 142. So that means that x is 142, x plus 1 is 143, and x plus 2 is 144. Next one we're going to do. Again, they're telling us the perimeter of this thing is going to be x plus 2x plus 3 plus 3x minus 9 is equal to 54. Here, they're only asking us to find the value of x, so let's simplify. We get 3x minus 6 equals 54. Adding 6 to both sides gives me 3x equals 60, so x must be 20. Since they're only asking for the value of x, I'm not going to find the side lengths. In this question, they say that there are 13% of the teenagers own their own car. If the high school is 738 students, we would multiply that by the 13% to get the number of students with a car. Well, let's change the 13% to 0.13. Multiplying that out, I get 95.94. Of course, we don't have part cars or part people, so we'd round that to the closest one. For number 7. Oops. In this question, they ask us if we have 525 acres of land in the region, and there are 34% of the land is privately owned. How many is not? Well, if 34 is privately owned, 66% is not. So I'm going to take 525 times the 66%. Again, we need to change the percent to a decimal. If I multiply that, I get 346.5 acres. Now, in this case, we can have part of an acre, so we would not make that a whole number. In this question, if it says there are 124 songs saved on my MP3 player, that represents 56% increase over last year. Well, if last year was 100% and we increased by 56%, that must mean I have 156% of last year's song. So if I have this equal to 124, and then n was the number I had last year, again, we're going to have to divide by 1.56, 1.56. So the number of songs that I had last year would have to be somewhere in the range of 79 songs. Remember to label your answers. Number 9. If we're going to solve this thing for k, the first thing that we have to do is add 7p to both sides. And so I get a plus 7p equals 3k. Divide by 3, divide by 3. And so I get k equals that. For number 10, we're going to take this guy and solve it for r. If I'm going to solve it for r, I have to divide both sides by nt, the things that are multiplied by the r. So when I do that, I get pv over nt is equal to r. For this one, we're going to take, if they tell us the Celsius degrees, we're going to plug that in for C in the formula. The first thing that we have to do is multiply the 9/5 times 38, and I'm going to get 68.4 plus the 32. So the Fahrenheit temperature, when the Celsius temperature is 38, would be 100.4 degrees Fahrenheit. For number 12, it took Hannah's dad 8 hours to drive to Duluth to bring he back home for spring break. If Duluth is 256 miles from home, find the average speed. Well, if it's 256 miles to Duluth and 256 miles back home, I get 512 miles. If it took 8 hours, I take 512 divided by the 8 hours. When I do the division, I get 64 miles per hour. For number 13, we have Darren wants to put tile on the floor. The kitchen measures 19 by 13, and one box covers 40 square feet. So if I take the multiply 19 times 13, I get the area of the kitchen is 247 square feet. If I'm dividing that by 40 square feet per box, I know that I'm going to have 6.175 boxes. We know that we can't get a part box, so we'd round that up to 7 boxes. And you could probably bring the leftovers back. For number 14, if we have the amount is equal to the principal times the quantity of 1 plus r over n to the nt power, I get 7,000 times the 1 plus 0.029 over, if we're compounding monthly, that would be a 12 to the 12 times 8 power. Well, let's do some simplifying here. We have 7,000 times the quantity of 0.029 divided by 12 plus 1 gives me 1.002416667. If I take that to the 96th power, I'm going to get 1.26668. And then multiply that by 7,000. I get $8,825.36.7. We can't have part cents, so we would round that up to 37.